for me, each piece of art that I've seen it looks good to look at, but also when you go to the other level, to the tech behind it, it's like seeing two pieces of art, in one, and that for me is a very innovative way to experience art, and I think Mr. French here has been one of the most vocal champions of VR and AR and what this technology can do, and it was very lovely to see it in action in this context. Just to highlight the importance of aligning this sort of presentation and the way we create art to a moment, to a point in time which gives it the impact and significance that it has. I like that a lot of the pieces we are seeing here are speaking to the election moment, because we are going into a period where we need people to be very aware of the choices they are going to make and to be involved in that process. So for me, it's very powerful to see this. 2 years ago, during the COVID pandemic, I don't know who not 2 years ago, this is now 4 years, but during the COVID pandemic, I don't know where were you guys? What were you guys doing during COVID?
Graduating.
Yeah, exactly. So the virtual component was what I was going for. During COVID, I had an opportunity to work with HEVOS on a different project on climate justice. So we had artists coming together from all across Africa to produce art that was speaking to the climate justice conversation. And one of those projects was by a gentleman called Jeremiah Ikomio from Nigeria. French might know him because everyone in VR and AR, I think they know each other. So Jeremiah came up with this very magnificent concept to take historical sites, sites that have been pretty much decimated in Nigeria, and recreate them using VR and AR. And we exhibited this project to the community that we were working with, and after that, he took the collective work that we were doing to the COP26 summit in Copenhagen that year. And the impact of that work was that, out of the different voices of artists that were part of this project, the outcome of it was that in COP27, now the countries that we were advocating against, the Western countries, which are the ones that are responsible for the climate change that we're experiencing, ended up committing up to $13 billion to different projects, adaptation and all that. I can't take credit for that this work was fully responsible for that outcome, but there's a part it played, because the people who are attending COP, they saw this work, some of them interacted with it, and it made a difference. When people are going back into the meetings at COP, having seen, experienced this work in AR, like what Jeremiah had produced, it informed some of the outcomes, some of the decisions that were made in those meetings. And the reason I'm saying this is just to contextualize that what you're doing as artists here, it is very important. If you're able to take this, for example, I really like this piece with the lawyers, and if you're able, if the artist who made this is able to take this to schools and young people are able to interact with it, the level of awareness that creates, civic awareness, 5 or so years down the line, that will translate to the change that we want to see in the society. So I think from my perspective in the development space is that these initiatives are incremental. Sometimes it feels like the pace is slow, the thing is not happening immediately. But if you think about the example I was referencing of COP, we did this project with HEVOS in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. The results only later came out in COP27. And even now, there's still a lot of follow-up happening of, how are those commitments going to be channeled to African countries and the global south. So it's a long journey, it's a long process, but it's important to begin it and begin to start this conversation and trigger the change in the spaces where it needs to happen.
Right.